Hero Journalism would like to make this public service announcement. We implore you to do what you can to support a worthy cause. Please go see Hellboy. Hello heroes, Forcade here, coming to you just a little bit over a week since Hellboy came out into theaters. And folks, it does not look good. Certainly the film struggled in its opening weekend. That's a bit of an understatement. I actually thought it was going to be somewhat okay when I first saw it. I saw it on preview night on Thursday, and when I went and checked out to see what the budget was on Box Office Mojo, I saw that it looked like, I believe it was Box Office Mojo, it looked like it was predicted to come around $20 million for its opening weekend, and on a budget of $55 million or $60 million, depending on where you've heard it reported. It sounded like it was just barely going to make its money back. It sounds like, if it's $20 million, typically the opening weekend is going to be a third of the domestic total, so you would expect it to come in right about $60 million. And so I thought perhaps with a strong showing in streaming market and maybe some DVD sales, obviously that's a dwindling market, that maybe we might see a continuation of the franchise. And obviously for me, it's a very beloved franchise, and I know it is for many of you out there. And I know there's a lot of people skeptical about this movie. Obviously, it's not Ron Perlman and Guillermo del Toro, and no one is more upset about that than me. I mean, that was a fantastic combination, and Del Toro is an amazing filmmaker, certainly couldn't be replaced by many directors, and certainly not who they went with, Neil Marshall, a competent director certainly, but just nowhere near Guillermo del Toro's visionary style. So I knew going into this that it was not going to be as good as the original Hellboy 2 movies, and I still wanted to see it. I want more Hellboy, and I'll be honest with you, it's not a great movie and probably not a good movie, especially for, I think a lot of people are going to be a little bit disappointed, but it's still a very competent movie, and it gets so much of the Hellboy spirit right. It's just got some issues on story and pacing, and I'd say that overall, the Hellboy experience is there. And I would offer to the geek community that a world in which not the greatest Hellboy movies, a mediocre Hellboy movie comes out is still a better world than one in which we don't have any more Hellboy movies coming out. Hellboy is such an important part of comic book adaptations. The success of the original 2 movies was very important in showing that, showing Hollywood that you didn't have to be Marvel or DC. It didn't have to be Superman or Batman or Spider-Man to have a successful comic book adaptation, that the comic book medium had so much more to offer. And so it's a little bit disappointing to see the fact that this movie is not going to continue in that tradition. In fact, the opening weekend, I believe, was around $12 million, which is a bit less than what I thought what I saw the projections were planned to be. And obviously, $12 million, you're talking about a $35 to $40 million total domestic take, and it could be even worse if it has a steep drop off. And it has been thrashed by the critics and much better among audience scores, but still not a great audience score. And to me, that's a bit of a bummer. Having more Hellboy, to me, just improves the scape of comic book adaptations. And again, they got so much right about that film. If you're going to have to replace actors Ron Perlman as Hellboy and John Hurt as Professor Brutenholm, I have to say, David Harbour as Hellboy and Ian McShane as Brutenholm, that was a really impressive recasting. I mean, they both did really well in their roles. Harbour was a little stiff at times, but at certain times he felt like Hellboy, and I'm pretty impressed because, like I said, he's coming after Ron Perlman, which just seemed to be the note perfect performance and adaptation we could have wanted. So, and there is a lot of great stuff about the movie. It does have some incredible effects and action. The CGI ranges from pretty awesome to pretty not so awesome. I think throughout most of it, it's very impressive, especially considering the film's pretty much modest budget. It definitely was some uneven filmmaking, and rumors have come to light. I just saw in Midnight's Edge, After Dark, I believe it was. They were talking about the fact that there's a high level of producer meddling that really compromised the director's ability. They fired his cinematographer, and there was an effort to cram too much story into it. So it's a little bit of a mishmash narratively, but if you love Hellboy, you have to see this movie. That's the way I look at it. I mean, it's, like I said, it really hit a lot of Hellboy notes just perfectly. And Hellboy also has just such a unique place in genre. You know, it's horror, but it's comic book, and it's also comedy. So it's got the type of horror comedy that you get from the Evil Dead franchise mixed with just amazing sci-fi and steampunk and comic book visuals. So, you know, I love Hellboy. I thought this movie was a middling effort, but had just flashes of brilliance. And I'm not the kind of person that needs to go see a perfect movie. A lot of people, when they're going to see a movie, they want to see the best of what Hollywood has to offer in terms of narrative and production value. But if you love genre entertainment, you can't stick to the best movies. If you didn't have the schlock of the industry, you wouldn't have like a Quentin Tarantino. You wouldn't have his career, as so much of that was inspired by grindhouse cinema, which is considered the schlockiest of the schlock. So all I have to say is I endorse Hellboy. It's not the best movie, and it certainly can't touch Guillermo del Toro and Ron Perlman's version, but it was a worthy effort. You can tell those people loved the source material, or at least some of them did, the writer and the director. The producers seem to be more interested in maybe meddling with the Hollywood power play, but I still say go see it. Like I said, it's been a week since it's been out. There's still time to see it. If you don't get tickets for Avengers Endgame and you're at the movie theater, go see Hellboy if it's still playing. It's worthwhile, and I think anything we can do to hopefully maybe give this a Pacific Rim style effect where it becomes successful after its theatrical release and does end up getting a sequel, I would love that. I know a lot of people are savaging this movie right now, but I would totally love that. So go see it. Let me know if you like it. Let me know in the comments below, and we'll see you next time on Hero Journalism.